an appropriate level of education for a gentleman.
Right.
Anonymous text, unfortunately.
Can't spell his own name.
Exactly. My view on that is that the level of education is irrelevant as long as a certain amount of time has been dedicated to study of the classics.
Okay, by which you mean Pink Floyd and the Beatles?
Exactly.
Right, okay.
As long as you've read your Latin and you study Latin and Greek, you've studied the classical civilizations, and you have at no stage, I repeat, at no stage entered into a curriculum of any vocational activity.
Okay, right, of course.
You may be considered to be a gentleman. If you think that you're a gentleman having taken A-levels in tourism, hotel management, and
Woodwork.
Nonsense subjects like this, you are no gentleman, sir.
Yeah,
if, however,
no friend of yours.
No friend of mine, exactly. If you've studied, Catullus, Pliny, Cicero, and a gentleman of that persuasion, then congratulations. So to any level at all, as long as classics have been involved.
Okay, and one final question from the punters.
We've got, Dear Rufus, I'm 16 and I helped a lady carrying supermarket shopping to her car. As I left, I saw her checking her bags to check if I'd taken anything. I was so offended, I thought I'd been quite the chap. That's from James.
That's stinging.
And that's true. I mean, as well as chivalric kind of conundrums, I'm saying, do email and text, and if you think you've been the gentleman, you've been shortchanged by society.
Yes, and so what would you do in that situation? Just run over, push her over, steal her shopping?
Yeah, nick the car, nick at least one orange from the bag.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to get some more music in before we bring in James King. He's going to give us what we should be thinking about the Oscars. They are, of course, tonight, probably in the middle of the night, I guess, LA time. And so, Harry, it's your musical choice.
Yeah, this was out last year. It completely passed me by. A band called King Khan and the Shrines out of Canada. It's a wonderful album called What Is. It's kind of garage rock, but there's hints of James Brown in there and Motown and stuff. And this is a lovely, lovely song called Welfare Bread.
That's Harry's choice on this week's Steve Show. What was it, Harry?
That was Welfare Bread by King Khan and the Shrines.
By Kim Carnes?
King Khan.
Kim Carnes. She's got Betty Davis eyes. No, it was cracking. Thank you very much indeed.
Cheers.
All right, let's have a round of applause in the style of Steve Wright, the broadcaster. All right, please. As we welcome James King, erstwhile film critic for both radio and television. No doubt we'll find you in print, I imagine, somewhere.
Occasionally, yeah. Thank you very much. I like the sort of comparison to the talky bits on
Thank you very much. That's exactly what we've
factoids. I've got some movie factoids.
I hope so. That's exactly. I mean, I look up to Righty in every sense, the broadcaster. Yeah. And so, James, I've got you in obviously because the Steve Show 2008 is all about for the listener who has no opinions of their own.
Yep.
What can they say if they are in a pub later and someone brings up the Oscars? They have got no opinion. They don't know anything about it. They don't know where they stand on the Best Picture nominations. That's exactly why we've dragged you in here. Now, Oscars this year, obviously a lot of worry that it wouldn't be on at all because of the writers' strike.
Yeah.
Obviously, I am a member of the Writers Guild of America. I wasn't on the picket lines, I'll be honest with you.
I think we went out for a curry one night, didn't we, when it was on? And I said, aren't you meant to be on the picket lines? You're like,
yeah, I had to have a night off.
Yeah.
I was handing out donuts, you know, and the like to evil Longoria. So I had to take a break. But anyway, the writers' strike is over now, which means the Oscars is on. Jon Stewart will be hosting it, I guess, tonight.
Yeah, and I think, if people are going to be asked about it in the pub tonight and they want that one thing to say, I think this year is very interesting, and in the last few years actually it's been interesting because the movies have been perhaps more intense than usual. This year, particularly, very intense bunch of movies, such as No Country for Old Men and There Will Be Blood and Michael Clayton. But of course, in the States, this goes out, 8 o'clock at night? It's primetime TV. For us over here, the TV broadcast is always in the middle of the night. So it's a little bit of a minority thing, actually sitting down and watching the whole thing. In the States, this is primetime telly. What I love is when you get really intense films. Daniel Day-Lewis, for example, a man very reticent about publicity and red carpets, but obviously he has to be part of the whole showbiz glamour of the Oscars. So he's got to do the red carpet, he's got to answer inane questions from Joan Rivers, he's got to speak in media-friendly sound bites. You're going to have all these, really cheesy American interviewers asking about, sum up No Country for Old Men, in 10 seconds. And it's going to be quite painful to watch because it's not Titanic, it's not Lord of the Rings, it's not a big mainstream year, it's not even Dreamgirls from last year. So that I really like to see because those actors are going to be squirming. Danny has to be there and he'll probably win Best Actor.
Well, actually, and deservedly so, if you don't
Yeah.
mind me throwing my 10 penalty.
Well, I do, but I agree with you, so I'll let
Thanks
you get
very
away
much
with it.
indeed. Hey, listen, be careful, because don't think I didn't watch the Alan Titchmarsh show this week.
You see, I did want to say you're not the first man over the last few days that I have spoken to about the Oscars. That credit did go to Alan Titchmarsh.
Alan Titchmarsh has a ITV afternoon show, for those of you that work, and I saw you on there. I switched on late, I'm not going to lie to it.
Yeah.
But all I noticed was that they were obviously asking you and a bunch of other people what I couldn't tell, but all I know is that your vote was Titanic.
Yeah, okay, this was what the deal was. It was myself, Emma Norman, daughter of Sir Barry, and
Lord Barry.
someone, a gossip columnist, can't remember her name, but an American kind of showbiz columnist.
Yes.
And they said, we want you to talk about 3 Best Picture Oscar winners from the history, last 80 years. And we'll get the audience to vote for the best one. Now, I'm thinking I could go for actually my favourite, or I could just play to the audience.
Sure.
Because I know that, the audience, I can't, that they were half dead. I'll be honest.
Of course.
No, they were lovely people, but I'm surprised some of them even made it out of the studio.
Sure.
It was an older audience. I thought I'm just going to go for a big mainstream hitter like Titanic.
You're not going to go with Schindler's List.
And they're going to love it. And of course, it did. I had to lie through my teeth and pretend that I loved Titanic, but I think I did it quite convincingly.
You love Titanic.
Well, I don't
straight man in the
mind.
world.
I don't mind Titanic, but when I was kind of saying to Alan, I'm welling up, Alan, just watching the clip of Leo and Kate aboard the deck, when he's holding her and their arms out and all that kind of stuff, and the audience loved it. So it was very shallow of me. I lied.
Showbiz.
I lied to get the votes. And then after that, it was a live performance from Paul Young.
Oh my God! Is that available on some kind of download option to watch?
Sure
that show?
it is. I'm sure
I
it
missed
is.
the whole show.
It's amazing, and then, of course tomorrow it's Lorraine Kelly. So you're kind of sandwiched between Titchmarsh and Lorraine Kelly.
That's one of my fantasies.
And on the way in to Alan's show, the cabbie who was hired by the TV company insisted on calling him Alan Titmarsh for the whole way through. Off to Alan Titmarsh then, are we? I'm like, yeah, and you just don't know whether to say anything or not.
Yeah, it's a good job it was Titmarsh. Work with me. Listen, because people as obviously get very tired of us endlessly talking. However, rich and fulfilled it is with Titchmarsh related material.
Yeah.
So we have to pause for some music, obviously. And I thought I'd throw in a tune which is one of my favourite artists, and it was a song which was so cruelly overlooked by the Academy, and it's actually made me query their judgments ever since. It's Amy Mann, of course, from the film Magnolia, and of course, as Amy herself reminded me when she was in session for the show, this was a song that lost out to Phil Collins that year, and a tune from Tarzan. This is Save Me. One of the nominations from 1999 at the Oscars, Save Me, Amy Mann, beaten of course by Phil Collins. And we are welcoming back James King, who's here just giving us a mild, giving us what we should be saying as our opinions on this year's Oscars. How long has it been going now? Is it 80 years or something?
This is the 80th Academy Awards. So I'm expecting sort of fireworks of some sort tonight to celebrate that, and they do very good cheesy moments at the Oscars. They're very good at that, and some of my favourite highlights have been the moments with Gwyneth Paltrow, or I liked when Nick Park won for I think his second Oscar for one of the Wallace and Gromit movies, when he had one of those flashing bow ties that rotates. You don't see them very often, certainly not at the Academy Awards. And you can just they were kind of thinking, who is this geek? But he's won 3 Oscars, good on him. But there are some moments at the Oscars that I was too young to see, and now you read about them and think, I would love to have experienced that, I'd love to have seen that, and you kind of go on the internet and you can't find them anywhere, but these infamous moments of Oscar Oscar telecasts and stuff that I never saw. For example, in 1989 there's a moment that I really looked for on the internet but nowhere was showing it, which is when Rob Lowe apparently opened the show by dancing with Snow White and singing Proud Mary, and I don't know why they were doing that, but Disney sued because it was so bad and they were using Snow White, who's a Disney character, and it is supposed to have sort of ended Rob Lowe's movie career, although I think there was a sort of a sex tape as well around the same time, which helped a little bit.
Well, not involving Snow White as well, I
Not No, I think
it was after the Oscars telecast.
Yeah. But I want to see that. I think in 1986, the opening number was from Guys and Dolls. It was a number from Guys and Dolls called "Fugue for Tin Horns," performed by Telly Savalas, Dom DeLuise, and Pat Morita from The Karate Kid. And I want to find this stuff, and I've looked for it, but I was too young to see it the first time around. So those are the kind of moments that.
Are you Pat Morita? Do you have a tape of?
Yeah. Well, Pat, of course, sadly no longer with us.
Oh, that's tasteless.
But this is the kind of stuff that I want to see this year. Just a really random moments. But I fear that those are perhaps consigned to the 1980s, and now it's become a little bit more slick.
There's the famous Marlon Brando incident, isn't there, where Brando, was it his win for The Godfather?
It was, yeah.
And he decided he wanted to use that opportunity to make a political protest about the fate of the Native Americans.
Yeah.
So invited a Native American to come up and collect the award on his behalf.
Yeah.
And I'm right in saying it wasn't actually a Native American?
No, Sacheen Littlefeather was supposedly her name, although she was sort of some B-movie actress. I can't remember her actual name. So he was making a protest, but it wasn't even with a real Native American. He was making a protest about Native Americans, but couldn't even find a real Native American to make that protest with.
Yeah.
And, Vanessa Redgrave as well, I think in the late 70s did it. She was sort of, calling all the Jewish people Zionist hoodlums and all this kind of stuff. You're thinking it's Hollywood, love. You don't want to offend.
Don't want to offend Jewish people,
there's a lot of Jewish people in Hollywood, so I think the political statements perhaps often fail rather miserably.
Michael Sheen, actually, friend of the show, was up for an award recently and couldn't make it, and was thinking of sending David Walliams, his friend, dressed up as a Native American Indian, to accept the award to see if anybody got it as a kind of brilliantly postmodern joke. But I think everybody would have gone, "Oh, is that some sort of Little Britain character?"
Except Jack Nicholson, who's been at every Oscar ceremony ever. Who would have been
with laughter. His sunglasses going up and down. But of course, Michael's father is a Jack Nicholson lookalike.
Of course, we could have said he
well have been him.
Yeah. Because Michael Sheen had one of the embarrassing Joan Rivers red carpet moments when she said to him, "So you're English. What do you think of Tony Blair?" And he was like, "Well, actually, I'm Welsh." And she goes, "Well, Wales is in England."
Ooh.
Yeah. But this is what is. I don't know. Obviously, Joan Rivers is a comedian, so I don't know whether she's doing stuff like that deliberately. And some of the stuff she says, Rachel, I think it was big, Oscar dress, loads of feathers on, and she goes, how many pigeons died for that? And just these kind of Joan Rivers barbs, you don't know whether she's doing it because she genuinely doesn't know what to say to them, which she probably doesn't, or whether it is a Joan Rivers gag.
Sure.
But there's some, those are kind of embarrassing moments that I'm personally looking forward to tonight.
Absolutely, we'll look forward to those enormously. And so we better rush because we got some live music coming up, and obviously you're less essential than new music. It's all about new music, sex music. But what are your big tips for the big hitters?
Well, I think No Country for Old Men is going to win Best Picture, Best Directors for the Coen brothers. It's easy to say Daniel Day-Lewis, but first partly because I believe it, but also because he's won everything else, so I'm not really kind of going out on a limb there. But I think if I am going to go out on a limb, the Actress Awards, I'm going to go for the French actress Marion Cotillard for her performance as Edith Piaf, because I know that Julie Christie has been winning every other award, but I think there might be a little upset.
And what about the big one, Best Special Effects?
Best Special Effects has got to be Transformers.
Oh,
I'd have thought. There's already been the technical science awards have already happened, and of course they were presented, I think, last week by someone we all associate with technical and science matters, Jessica Alba.
Yes, so we've missed those.
Missed them.
Okay, well, you'll be up, I guess, all night.
I will be, yeah.
Enjoy that. What time does it start on TV?
1 o'clock, I think.
Okay, well, look forward to that. Well, what we do? We have a little kit beforehand, or?
Oh no, it's all the way through to Lorraine Kelly tomorrow morning.
Oh, we can catch you on Lorraine Kelly.
You certainly can.
That's a dream we've all had. Okay, thank you very much indeed to James King. Round of applause and too much time. We'll have some more music. We've got some live music coming up. A Radiohead tune that's been kicking around for over 10 years, apparently, originally written around the time of OK Computer. That's Nude from the recent album In Rainbows, and it's released as a single on March 31st. It's the Steve Show, BBC Six Music, with me, Steve Merchant, and we've got my little gang here. Thanks to James King. Hopefully he will hang around when we examine some of the Pigeonhole tracks in the final half hour of the show. We've got live music coming up shortly from Doug Walker, but prior to that, of course, we've already heard from Rufus and his advice to the gentleman. We'll hopefully squeeze in a few more of those queries before the end of the news, and before the end of the news, before the end of the show, and maybe before the end of the news. Maybe just crash in during the news at the half hour spot, maybe there's some important information about some new music, Annie Lennox, and we can just interrupt that and find out how perhaps Annie Lennox should dress. She often dresses like a gentleman, of course, so it all works perfectly. Or am I thinking of Grace Jones? Doesn't matter, because we haven't got time. We've got to talk to Sammy.